Good day all, RobotnikHolmes here. I think I'm getting the hang of this review video format, so let's not let introductions get in the way. Buckle up boys and girls and everyone in between. We're looking at the next 2 issues of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics by Archie Comics. So can I please get a fancy transition now? To begin our analysis of number 3, let's take a look at the cover art. As usual, Dave Manak's art is as vibrant as it is silly. The cover itself is just Sonic and Tails having looked at my comic collection and saying, "This is the one worth getting." Don't you tell me what to do. In this issue's main story, The Bomb Bugs Me, we get another little joke about just how fast Sonic the Hedgehog is. It being he is so fast he can be on a TV camera and in person at the same time. However, it's apparently not all fun and games in this silly little comic book, as our hero brings them news that Dr. Robotnik has set them up the bomb. Yeah, apparently during one of Sonic's midday runs through Robotropolis, he caught wind of the villain talking about an explosive that will kill everyone. Yeah, even Sonic knows this is unlike the comic's usual light-hearted tone. But it does bounce back to camp and cheerfulness when Sally just preaches for a resolve for a bomb-free world. To hit this comedic attitude home, instead of fighting Robotnik and making sure he does not endanger countless lives, like, you know, the daily thing the freedom fighters did in the cartoon, the three just go about and hold up picket signs out of protest outside his office. Dr. Robotnik decides that he and his swapbots have had enough. Ain't no furry hippie's gonna be on his turf. But he finds out the freedom fighters actually tricked him by use of a projector screen of themselves. A good distraction, I guess, even if Mystery Inc. is looking upon this and sighing. I could swear I'm watching a Looney Tunes sketch here, because suddenly they get Boomer to dress up as Dr. Robotnik to get more info out of the crab meat robot. Though he goes to get him the supposed bomb, the bandit can't help but be suspicious. That goes as well as you think, and then Boomer and Dr. Robotnik have a good old ham-to-ham combat, with the big bad revealing himself to be Boomer? Oh, and Boomer to be Robotnik? No wait, Robotnik is Boomer, but Boomer is... What the hell is going on? In the end, the bomb is analysed in hopes of it being dismantled, but it's actually revealed to just be a bug bomb that Dr. Robotnik used to keep out the flying ants. Story 2 involves Sonic and Boomer going off on a mission together because they notice something on the southern border. To get there, they race to the danger zone after going through a sports shop to get rollerblades. Okay mate, whatever contributes to this story's crazy visuals. Over there, they encounter swapbots placing a Mobian rabbit into a roboticizer. Sonic would try to stop them, but forgetting they're tied up, he just ricochets back into Boomer. In the nick of time, Sonic is able to cut through the swapbots with ease and makes it to the roboticizer while the rabbit's in the process of being turned into a robot. Geez, this is the most intense the comic has gotten thus far. The rabbit girl passes out, but Sonic and Boomer bring her out of the wreckage, and now she's... Oh, heck yeah! They're finally bringing Bunnie into the comic! About time they included her in the Freedom Fighter team, considering she's one of the main frickin' characters. Bunnie is brought back to Princess Sally by Sonic and Rota, where she introduces herself to the others. I know she was just turned part machine and she hasn't contemplated her existence as a half Mobian, but bear with me, this is still the comedic era of the comics. Bunnie proves to be a welcoming member already amongst the freedom fighters, as she is super strong, has an outgoing, friendly personality, and even flirts with Sonic as he was the one who saved her. But he shows her where his priorities lie. While Bunnie also shows that she respects Sally and wishes to be her hairdresser, Antoine comes running in and talks about the boss battle for the evening. He alerts the others that Robotnik has sent out a gigantic burrow bot that's tearing apart the forest. The freedom fighters can't have that, so Sonic and Bunnie Rabbot leg it out there to deal with the threat. Sonic's recklessness leads him to get a face full of raspberry flavoured Kool-Aid, but thankfully the burrow bot is put off balance by Bunnie's super strength. Man, with her on the team, they really are going to get an edge in fighting back Dr. Robotnik. And we see that after the giant bandit is dealt with, everyone celebrates their new teammate as Sonic pulls off Antoine's hair. Wait, that's a wig? In terms of story, I must say the ones in this issue were rather mixed. The first story was one crazy ride involving the idea of high stakes, but devolves into a strange, zany tone, very akin to that of a cartoon. Not much is worth noting except for that climax, my goodness. The second story finally introduced Bunnie Rabbot to the cast, and it gave her a whole introduction story to show off her powers and personality. Though it's funny, you'd think that her inclusion would be like a selling point, maybe even put her on the cover, but I suppose not, I don't know anything about publishing. It's also nice how we even get an introduction to Bunnie and how she got her robotic limbs, as in the cartoon it never went explained. She just had super strength and that was her place on the team. Live with it, yo. For the second story alone, I think this issue gets a good old 3. Dave Manak's art is still pretty up to snuff. With the stories he was given, he had a lot of room to flex his creativity, from drawing the craziness that was the climax of story 1, to the freaking world blowing up and everyone being killed. Sure, sometimes the characters can be a little bit off model, but there's nothing really worth criticising. Except Sonic here, who on the team didn't know how to draw his quills. For the characters, I'm super glad we got to see Bunnie. Not just her, but the others' initial reactions to her appearance are a nice touch. I love how Sonic treats her fair, but does not take her initial flirting, Sally Acorn being totally acceptable of her, and Antoine, her future love interest, expressing a timid sort of surprise. Although saying that, what the heck Antoine, that's no way to talk about your future wife. In terms of art and characters, I shall give issue number 3 a 3. Now, extra bits. You guys know the drill, there's random pages of corny humour that the comic loves sprouting so much, none of which I would consider that important. Are you a fan of Sonic and also really ancient jokes that wouldn't be out of place in a sitcom? This comic's got you covered. All in all, number 3 of the Archie Sonic comics gets a 6 out of 10. That's perhaps the best score so far, and it's fully deserving of it, introducing more characters from the Satiem cartoon whilst also continuing its course through absurd humour. It's still got a long way to go until it's more akin to that of the source material, but don't you worry, there's still plenty of interesting subjects up ahead, both good and bad, and trust me, we'll get to them. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the next issue. Wow, Sonic the Chimney Sweep. Alright. Number 4's cover is simply an excuse to make another joke, this one being about how dark and gritty it is. But when compared to the original cartoon...
Sonic, where was you when the brains were handed out?
It's anything but, to be honest. The main story starts off like a typical, "Ivo Robotnik, why are your eyes white again?" Anyway, it's the same plot from the last 2 issues, where series big bad Dr. Robotnik complains about Sonic and is given a brand spanking new idea by his bots. This episode, the Doctor is given a teeny tiny lizard, which he is initially underwhelmed with. However, the roboticization process is mucked up thanks to Buzzbomber. Wait, Robotnik says roboticize, but the machine is still given the name Robo-Machine. Someone got that right and then failed halfway through. Anyway, Dr. Robotnik accidentally creates something neither he nor the Freedom Fighters could anticipate. The small lizard becomes the gigantic... oh Nelly. Universalamander, a name as overblown as its massive ego. Meanwhile, the Freedom Fighters are just kind of chilling, staring at the TV and making a reference to Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis. And they catch wind of you know what, I'm not going to call him that. That's a bit too much of a mouthful. Godzilla is destroying the Great Forest, so Sonic decides to do what he does in a Sonic the Hedgehog comic and go out there to fight him. But where's Bunnie Rabbot? She was a big thing in the last issue, and she has giant robots for breakfast. Anyway, Sonic has a close shave with the gargantuan reptile, with it eating him, but the Hedgehog is able to fight back by spinning around in his gut. Ew. Then suddenly, in the middle of the battle, in a random callback to the games, Sonic suddenly gets 50 rings, 7 shiny objects I think are supposed to be Chaos Emeralds, and then he brings them straight to a Star Pose checkpoint to go to a special zone. This is very Sonic 1-ish, but with a much more simplified style. Thanks to that, Sonic becomes Supersonic, just like that. Look, he even has the iconic sparkles that follow him, that's a neat touch. Finally, we get some action as the Golden Sonic goes to take on Godzilla. Well, not really. He goes back to the others to ask him for an object, that's a slim reference to what went on in the last issue. And what with the comic's track record for having action scenes with little payoff, Sonic uses the machine to de-size Universalala and leave him scampering away. The story ends with Super Sonic and the others laughing at Antoine thanks to a whoopee cushion. I don't remember these being that funny in the late 90s, and I kind of feel bad for Antoine. Story 2 involves Tails this time. About time Sonic's Psychic got some time in the spotlight, and they really do play up Tails' independence. While Sonic's taking a nap by a tree for some reason, Tails decides to go out and find Dr. Robotnik, having a welcome back party? Yeah, none of this makes sense, even in its own continuity, but bear with me. Tails fights off bots in a sudden bout of heroics, so much so that he takes it right to Dr. Robotnik Inc. Yeah, Inc. As you can guess, with him being a two-tailed fox with little training, he is captured instantly, but thankfully Sonic is there to save the day. The story ends with Sonic and Tails leaving the place behind in a medium-sized explosion, and Tails having learnt his lesson not to get into trouble way over his head. Sort of. As always, the stories are pretty loose in terms of continuity. While there's a brief reference to something from the previous issue, it's otherwise the same zany fun ride this time around. In terms of characters, the Freedom Fighters except for Sonic and Tails are very much left in the background. At least the comic does something with the character of Tails, you know, Sonic's number 2, which is more than I can say for the original cartoon. That had so many new characters that my Foxchild never really developed beyond being Sonic's kid sidekick. The threat of Universe Salamander is neat, even if, like Krudzu in issue number 1, it's dealt with effortlessly by the end of the story, and he just exits stage left. The inclusion of Super Sonic, and so early too, is a nice thing to change up the norm. Also, the Special Zone makes an appearance as our hero's sudden well of power. Yeah, it's a video game reference, but you can't just mesh this in with the super serious tone of the cartoon. The second story is nothing to write home about, just an easily forgettable story that reminds the reader that Tails is an ineffectual freedom fighter in training. In terms of story, I'm gonna give it a 2. Hey, look at that! Dave Manick has an excuse to draw Godzilla! Universe Salamander is a freaking blast to watch. He just comes into being by complete accident, and then he decides to wreck everything. The art in general is cartoony, but well done. We even get an action scene against Super Sonic and the giant lizard thing, even if it's still drawn for comedy. I'm feeling generous, so I'll give the art and characters a 3. Alright, extra bits. Let's see, there's corny jokes, and corny jokes. Oh no wait, that's Bunnie! Confined once again to the backup pages. There's also... oh my goodness, is that fricking vertical and horizontal? Get them out of here before I kick this comic in the balls! Final score? Heck, 5 out of 10. Yay, another average score, but then again, I must stress, a lot of these early issues are like this. I mean, the stories and writing can feel a bit samey, especially considering throughout the first 4 issues we only really have one writer and one artist. But fear not, the next 2 issues are going to have a different writer on board, so stay tuned for a possible change of pace when I review issues number 5 and number 6.